Hello everybody, welcome, and hopefully you can hear me. It looks like you can probably hear me okay. So how is everybody doing? Looks like we got the thumbs up that everybody can hear me. So awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm super excited to have you here. And if you're joining us for the first time, my name is Jane, and today we're going to paint the rainbow sky with some lovebird silhouettes. It's a very simple painting. I think even for those of you who have a hard time with clouds, I think it'll be not as difficult on the background as you think it might be. So before we get started, I wanted to actually tell you about something new that's happening. So I've always kind of thought of my year as having two very distinct sections. You know, once the holidays hit, that's kind of the end of one section. And then after that, you know, at the new year, it kind of feels like this whole new, almost like a whole new season. And then I have a time in this summer where I usually take a week off. And after that, it kind of feels like the next half of the season. So that's kind of what we're going to start doing. So today is actually what we're going to call our season finale for season 6. And then I am going to go on just a broadcasting hiatus for the next 4 weeks. Season 7 will start on July 17th, so I'm not leaving. And in fact, you'll still have plenty of opportunity to be completely sick of me while I'm on a broadcasting hiatus. I will be updating my blog, I'll be on social media, kind of planning for the next season, paintings that I want to do, as well as working on other projects that I'm like trying to work on now that I can't dedicate a whole lot of time to because, you know, my main goal is to get broadcasting done. So yeah, for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be doing some fun things. You can follow me on Instagram and sign up for my mailing list, and you can be notified of, you know, maybe some paintings that I'm working on, projects that I'm working on. I'll be running some brush sales throughout the month, so make sure, like I said, that you sign up for my mailing list. If you click the little information iCard up, I don't know which corner it is. Which corner is it? Right there. Right? It should be right there. Click that. There's a link to my mailing list where you can sign up for that. Those of you who are in my YouTube sponsorship and Patreon sponsorship platforms, you will still be seeing me on a weekly basis like we do. So right now I meet with those guys at least once a week and we do a live broadcast. We do demos, we ask questions, talk about things coming up, fun stuff like that. So we'll still be doing that. So if you have to have a Jane fix over the next 4 weeks, you can join me over on my YouTube sponsorship or Patreon, and then we'll be back on July 17th. So that is that. So now that I've yacked your head off long enough, maybe we should get started on our painting. What do you say? So we'll jump over to here. Now I am using a brand new canvas that does have a layer of gesso on it today. I know last week we had a lot of questions about gesso, so I did make a blog post that kind of gives you a little bit more information. That's also linked up in the information iCard, so make sure you check that out. So I have a layer of gesso because I'm going to be doing some scrubbing, and before I do that today, I actually want to kind of outline where I want my colors to be. And that's just for me because I know that if I just start, one of my colors is going to end up being too big and I might not be able to fit all of them on my canvas. So if you don't feel like you need to do this, don't worry about it. I have my chalk pencil, and this one is brown because even like a regular graphite pencil, it shows through the paint. So, and I know that a lot of you will have a hard time seeing it, and you'll ask if I can do it darker, and I'll say no because I don't want big black lines showing through my pretty rainbow. So we'll use this kind of brown chalk pencil. And what I'm going to do, since I'm using, excuse me, since I'm using 6 different colors, ooh, and you can use any colors you like. You don't have to use the exact same colors I'm using. Really like the green here, the only reason I'm using that one is because it's the only tube green I have on hand besides phthalo green, and I didn't want to use phthalo green. So I have 6 colors. I need to make 6 different sections. So I'll start with one kind of in the middle. We'll just kind of give it a wild shape. It doesn't have to be, straight. Don't make hard lines or, very angular lines. So that's going to be, we're going to have 3 on this side, 3 on this side. I'll take another line from here and just kind of shape it a little bit different. And maybe, let's see. I'm just going to kind of go like that. And then we've got our other ones over here. The important thing is that when you're painting these colors in the background, don't use these hard lines as a way to say, okay, my pink has to stop right there. Go over your lines. These are just guidelines so that you can make sure that you are getting plenty of each color on there. So I think that's a good start. Also, Vince is in chat and he's taking questions. So if you have questions and you're watching live, make sure you put them in all caps so he will see it and ask me your questions. All right, like always when I'm scrubbing, I'm going to use my number 12 cloud brush. And for now, it's dry. I am going to have to wash it as we go, but I'll just dry it off as well as I can on a paper towel because you don't want to use it super, super wet because the paint will smear way too much. So I'm going to start up here with my quinacridone corner and just kind of go in a rainbow pattern. Clearly, you're free to do it however you like. I'm going to grab a bit of white. See, it's not a huge amount. This is kind of a small corner. In fact, I can zoom in on this one. Let's zoom in a bit. In the meantime, Vince, do we have any questions yet? Nothing yet?
People asking, you indicated that during your season break, you're going to be doing some live things with the Patreon.
With Patreon and YouTube, yeah.
Somebody wanted to know how much was it to get into that threshold. And also, if they can't make it live, can they watch it later on?
So somebody wanted to know about getting into Patreon and YouTube, what the thresholds are to watch the live events. So I do 2 different ones. And one is for all YouTube sponsors and anyone in Patreon, $5 and up. And that is where we kind of talk about the previous week's video and do demos. But we'll still do that, just we won't have a video to talk about specifically. The other one I do is on a monthly basis for the $15 Patreon levels, and that's where we actually do a directed painting. So I ask for suggestions, they give them to me, and by the end of it we have some kind of a painting. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. So I'm going to come into my quinacridone. I've got that white on here, and I'm just going to pick up some. Don't worry about getting a precise mixture.
What kind of brush is that?
This is my cloud brush.
Number 12?
Yes, number 12 cloud brush, like I said. Okay, 1/2 foot pressure. So remember it's not full foot like that. You're kind of rocked up on your toe, and we're nudging it, just digging it down into that canvas. Don't worry about mixing your color. Don't worry about cloud shapes, guys. I already heard one person say, oh no, more clouds. Don't think of them as clouds. Just get the color on there. Now right here when I get to my line, I'm going to absolutely go over top of it. Because even if I know for a fact I want my next color to start right there, if this color just ends there, I'm going to have a really hard time blending it. So I want to take it past that line. See how it's just a little bit different all over. And pirouette to get it down into that texture. That's the full foot pressure there. That's why it's not depositing quite as heavy as right there. just kind of scrubbing it and fading it out. We'll worry about kind of the little white cloud bits in just a minute. Now guys, I know last week especially we had a lot of questions about can you put the reference, the painting that we're painting on the screen. I don't feel like that's something that I can manage while I'm painting, because it's hard enough having to make sure that I can see the canvas around my face there. And I know that there's a lot of people who wish that I would take my face off and put the painting there, but ultimately I feel like this is the best way to do it. Also, I work in layers sometimes. I'm just wiping the majority of this paint off. I didn't clean it. I'm just wiping it on a dry paper towel. I work in layers a lot of times, and sometimes you may see me doing something and you're like, that's not what the picture looks like, because I've got other layers on it. And so that might be confusing, and you might try and get it to look like the picture rather than follow what I'm doing and end up getting confused. But also, especially where we're doing it live, chances are I'm going to change it from the painting that you saw, especially the one today. I'm going to have it be a little bit different. So that's a few reasons why I don't do that. All right, we're going to go into orange. So again, where are we? There we are. I picked up some white. I'll zip you out here just a little bit. And I'm going to get some orange. Good amount of orange. I am using heavy body, but the reason I didn't say anything about it earlier is because it doesn't matter. Even on the orange and yellow here, it doesn't matter. Basics is perfectly fine. You can probably even do it with craft paint. So don't worry about that. I'm just going to get some white. And again, laying it down right on the orange, coming up to that toe pressure. So I'm not half foot anymore. I'm just up on the toe. So kind of like that. And I'm just going to kind of lightly push it into that pink. Don't be afraid to get up into the pink. Don't worry about hard lines in the pink. None of that. Just make sure all of the white is covered right now. If you have ugly spots where you don't like the way the pink and the orange meet, we'll take care of it later, okay? Super light pressure. I'm barely even touching my canvas there. Barely, barely. Always take your sections out just a little farther than you think you want. So that's why I took the pink out farther into the orange, because like I said, I didn't want to lose any of that pink. And I'm going to do the same thing with the orange. Right now I'm just focusing on getting it kind of blended with the pink. Because since they overlap, if you take it exactly to where you want it to end, you're going to lose a good portion of it, or else you won't feel secure in blending it and you'll end up with a hard line. Right up into there. Okay, let's take the orange out here as far as we want to go. And then we'll start working on a few cloud tops and getting rid of some of the weird lines in there. We have any questions going on, Vince?
Yes.
Okay, let's have them.
Love your hair.
Thank you.
Love your bangs.
Thank you. I cut my bangs because they were growing out really far and I don't know what to do with them, but I was tired of pinning them back.
Mary asks, she says she's seen that you've used your paper plate in the last few videos rather than the glass-made palette. Do you prefer the plate for these videos?
I prefer the plate for the videos because people told me they preferred it when I used the plate over the glass palettes. So that's what we're doing. Okay, I just picked up a tiny bit of white. I know it's kind of hard to tell in the camera. I don't know how close I can get and have it still focus, but there's not a glob. It's just a smear on the end of the brush. And we're going to do a couple of, we're going to call them cloud tops, okay? Now we're going to do it with the 1/2 foot pressure. Notice on my brush here how I've got paint on one side and not on the other side, okay? So maybe this will help with cloud tops. If you take that part that has the paint on it and just go right onto the canvas, that's pretty much where it's going to stay. And then you're going to spend all this time trying to scrub it out and you're going to get a puffy spot. So instead, what I'm going to do is hold my brush at the side. So see, I've got the paint on this side with no paint over here. It's almost like I'm using the edge between the two. I'm just going to set that there somewhere, very light pressure, and kind of nudge it. I can kind of roll it toward the paint. See what I mean? If you have too much orange on your brush, just wipe it on a paper towel, or you can even pick up some more of your pink. See, I'm just going to lightly kind of nudge a little bit of white into there. The one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to just put white right there between those two colors and draw like a hard line between them. So don't be afraid to kind of start maybe right here inside of the orange and bring it up. Maybe it comes over into the pink. That's perfectly okay. And see, there's still a little bit of orange on my brush. So even though I'm adding white here, it's depositing a hint of that orange. But that's okay, because it's giving us a nice transition between the two. Let's get some little orange bits or some white bits down here in the orange. Not too much though, don't worry about this, because we're gonna add the yellow next. I might cover up some of those. So I'm not gonna do a ton on here, because I can do more after the yellow. So see, those clouds aren't too hard. And I picked up such little paint that even if I do get a glob, let me show you. See, it's just a little point of paint. Let's say that I kind of wipe it on, I'm like, oh, kind of looks like a worm. Well, the paint's really gone now. So I can go half foot, but light pressure, and kind of nudge it out. Seeing that it didn't get bigger and puffier and more white. Now I'm gonna wash off my brush, because I don't want to keep taking each color from each section down into the next section. It's really fine right here in the pink and orange area, and it would be fine between the orange and the yellow, but once we start getting into like the green, the orange and the pink being on my brush is going to be a nightmare. So from here on out, I'll probably wash it in between each color. Okay, paper towel, and squeeze as much water as you can out of there. Hey Vince, give me some questions while I'm doing this kind of boring part and readjusting my camera.
Well, Pamela asked if it was okay to use basic Liquitex. She doesn't have heavy body, and what's the difference?
Pam asked if it was okay to use basics. Absolutely. The basics, or the difference really is going to be the texture. You know, the heavy body, it's a little bit thicker. The basics is a little bit thinner. The reason I'm using heavy body instead of basics is because I'm running out of a lot of basics. I didn't have all of the colors that I needed in basics, so I just decided to go all heavy body today, but it doesn't matter. Really, like I said, you could probably use craft paint for this, and that should be okay. Okay, so that's pretty dry. I'm just gonna pirouette it on my paper towel, make sure it's as dry as possible. Okay. And onto yellow. So a good amount of white and a good amount of yellow. Again, with my half foot pressure starting outside of the orange so that I have the room to blend. Spread that until there's no more texture, until it's all smoothed out. If you can see ridges in your paint, you need to keep doing like this until that's gone. Up on the tippy toe and lightly nudge it into the orange. Some of the colors blend really nicely together. Some of them you'll need to help them a little bit. And that is mostly apparent when we get to like the blue and the green, because the green that I'm using is such a soft color, and I'm using phthalo blue, which is, you know, an insanely aggressive color. So I do have to do a little bit of blending between the two colors, and I'll show you that when we get there. Right now we're just gonna lay all this yellow in. Give me some more questions, Vince. No more questions? You guys, give me some questions.
Well, Heather V had an aha moment with her cloud tops just now.
Heather had an aha moment with her cloud tops just now. That's awesome. I love aha moments, especially with clouds. I know how hard clouds can be to paint. I remember when I was first learning how to paint, I wanted to paint clouds so bad. And I couldn't figure it out. I'd watched so many videos, experimented in so many ways with so many brushes. I could not figure out how to do clouds. And I have a good friend who's an amazing artist. She's actually an art teacher, like in school. She's phenomenal. And I begged her one day, please teach me how to paint clouds. She said, I don't know how to paint clouds. What are you talking about? And so that was kind of disheartening for me and scary. I thought, wow, if she can't paint clouds, I'm never going to be able to paint clouds. And then one day, just one day out of the blue, clouds. I painted clouds. And I was so excited. And then she made me teach her how to paint clouds. So those of you, I tell you that so that those of you who really struggle with clouds understand that you're normal. You're completely normal, and you will get it someday. I'm just going to kind of pop a little bit of brighter yellow in here and there. My yellow got kind of monochromatic, a little bit flat, so I just want to kind of pump up the brightness in a couple of places. There we go. And I think I am just going to wipe a little bit of this off while we do the white tops between the orange and the yellow. Be really careful. Don't take this color beyond the color next to it. So, you could take the yellow into the orange, you could take it into the green. Don't take it beyond any of those colors, because then you'll start to get some mud going on. Okay, coming in, wipe that little tiny bit of white on one side of my brush. See how my brush is pressed kind of flat? It's that edge I'm going to put on my canvas, my little tiptoe scrubby motion, and kind of roll toward the paint that I picked up. See? And here's what I was talking about between the two. Rather than just putting the white tops right here, I'm going to kind of start back here. Roll it, maybe come up a bit, and take that into the orange. Because I don't want a striped sky. No stripes. So is anybody painting along today, or is everybody just kind of watching? And
Sure.
let's see, we're going to go into green. I think that's probably good for the cloud tops in the yellow for now, except maybe I want to extend this one into the orange a bit. There we go. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brush again real quick. Since we're still new at broadcasting live, I apologize for these awkward silences where we don't know what to say. So Vince, feel free to interject with a question whenever I'm being very quiet, because I'm kind of afraid of silence.
Do they know that he's not here?
Olaf is laying on the floor, Vince wanted me to tell you.
Really close.
Really close. I tripped over him yesterday. I didn't know he was laying down on the floor directly behind me. And I always stand back to look at my painting. I'll just back up. And I backed up and I was like, what did I just step on? A dog. He was fine. He wasn't hurt. Okay. Oh, let's see. Let's move you back over this way. I'm going to go into my vivid lime green, and this is a really pretty color, but it's really kind of difficult to work with. So if you don't have this color, please don't feel like it's not going to be the same, because I kind of wish I had a different color. But It's fine. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white with this one because it's, like I said, it's a very soft color. You can even mix your colors if you want, you know, mix your green, which I typically do. That's why this is the only green I have in a tube. But for the sake of the video, I felt like it was just going to be easier if I used a tube green. If you're using basics and you have like, what is it called? Light green permanent. Light green permanent could work well here. A little bit of white, nudge over because I can see that line from that chalk, which is what I was afraid of. Let's actually pull the green in a little bit farther there. There we go. I think the main thing I want from you guys with this sky, no matter what colors you're doing, is I want you to work loosely. You know, you can set yourself parameters like I did with the lines, but ultimately remember that you're the boss of those lines. You're the one who made them. So you're the one who can ignore them. Just because there's a line there doesn't mean that you have to work within that line. See, I can even take this green and say, I completely reject that stupid line that I made. So please don't. I know whenever we kind of work within parameters like that, even if I tell you, go outside of that line. It's just a guide. I know I'm going to see somebody whose sky is these very hard stripes, and they're going to tell me, my sky is very stripy. It's because you work too tightly within those parameters. Don't. You know, if you feel like if you're looking at it and you're like, God, I'm just working way too stripy here, then I want you to intentionally bust out of it like I did here. I took that a couple of inches beyond my line. But I think you'll be much happier if you just work a little bit looser. See, look, I'm even going to take that clear up there so it almost touches the orange, just to make sure that I'm not getting overly stripy. It's okay if I lose a portion of my yellow. It's not a big deal. We have a question?
Pamela asked, do we have to wait for each color to dry before applying the next?
Pamela asked if we have to wait for each color to dry before applying the next. I would recommend highly that you do not intentionally wait for each layer to dry. You're going to have a little bit of an easier time blending between them if the previous color is wet. If it does happen to dry, it's okay, but I specifically do not wait for each one to dry because I know it will be a little bit more difficult. I'm just going to kind of pump up the green there. And since I have to blend my green with my phthalo blue, I'm going to pull it out just a little bit farther because otherwise I'm going to lose some of it. Oh, and actually I had this huge section for my green specifically because I have to blend it with my phthalo blue. So let's fill that in. Then we'll do our cloud tops between the green and the yellow. And we'll move on to the blue. This is the hardest part of the painting, guys. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is really not a very hard part at all. As long as you're not letting yourself freak out thinking about, oh, I'm painting clouds and I don't know how to paint clouds. If you let yourself freak out about that, you will have a hard time. All right, let's just wipe that off again a little bit. Another question?
Catalina asked if you're adding white to each color to make them more opaque.
Catalina asked if I'm adding white to each color to make them more opaque. All of the colors I'm using, with the exception of like the quinacridone, and I think maybe the deep violet, they're all opaque colors. But I'm adding the white so I get the variation in the color and so I can do the cloud tops. Because I'm painting on a white background, it doesn't really matter if they're opaque or not. All right. No paint on that side, paint on that side, putting the edge, starting in the green. I'm going to take that up and into the yellow. But, you know, it depends if you feel like you're going to have a hard time getting to each section before the previous section dries, you might want to make sure that you're working with your colors as opaque as possible. Because if you're trying to paint a transparent color over another color that's dry, it will show. So, you know, the white definitely helps with that, but mostly I just like to get the variation in color. You know, I like to be able to say I've got some lighter areas here, some deeper areas here. And this white is really good for covering up those lines. Awesome, gone. That line was bugging me. I don't even think you guys could see it, but it was making me crazy. I'm not going to take this too much farther back because, like I said, we got to do that blending. And I don't want to just paint over everything that I just did. I think that's good. What are you guys thinking so far? See how I've got, it's not like solid stripes. I've got a wide bit of orange here that kind of pinches off. My yellow kind of fluctuates. That's really what I wanted, was super dynamic like that. Okay, I'm cleaning off my brush. Rinsing it off. Squeezing out as much water as possible. Oh, we're going fast today. Okay, let's have some questions.
Eileen says the order of the colors is most natural. Did you experiment to get in putting different orders? Or?
Eileen asked if I experimented putting the colors in a different order rather than the natural order. No, because I have my OCD elements. I'm not typically OCD, like I'm not a very tidy person, you know. But when it comes to color, it has to be in order. It has to be in order. It really bugs me. I bought a thing of paint, the Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus liquid watercolors. And the first set I bought was all of the colors were in order, in rainbow order. You know, I loved that. The next set I bought was not in rainbow order, and it really made me crazy. So no, I work in rainbow order. All right, Phthalo Blue. And if you're using Phthalo Blue, please remember Phthalo Blue is so strong. If I use as much Phthalo Blue as I used in any of these other sections, that is going to be a dark, dark section, and it's going to take over the whole painting. So I just have a little tiny block of Phthalo Blue out, and I won't use all of it. So I have a good, healthy amount of white on here, and I'm just going to grab, you see that? Not a lot of Phthalo Blue. Let's bring you over here just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to start outside of my green. Look how dark that is. So be so careful with your phthalo. That's another reason I didn't want to use phthalo green. Two phthalos next to each other is just asking for trouble. A little more white. Tiptoe pressure. Let's nudge it into that green, and we're going to have a hard transition line. Don't worry about that right now. Just let it be like that, okay? Just picking up white to blend. What other questions do we have? Carrie has a question.
If she was going to use darker sunset colors, dark red, would she still add white to them?
If she wants to do dark sunset colors, would she still add white? Really, that depends on the look you're going for. You know, adding white is definitely going to lighten it and make it a little bit more pastel, so that might take it away from a sunset look that you're wanting. So I would say do some color swatch experiments first. You know, get a piece of paper or a junk canvas or something and experiment with the colors that you're thinking about using, just to find out if they look like what you want them to look like, if they work with the other colors you're wanting to use, etc. So that's what I would say. When in doubt, experiment. Color swatches. Maybe even paint like a little abstract painting with the colors that you're planning on using, just to really get an idea for how well they work together. I'm going to pull that blue in a little bit farther here because I'm feeling like I'm starting to get a line. We'll make this section a little bit darker, just because I decided to, not for any reason in particular. Okay, before I worry about that, let's blend that with our green. So I'm going to take my brush, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of green. Now what I'm going to do is, remember how usually when I say when we're blending, colors start outside. So like put down your color here and then blend it up into it. Where I'm trying to get these two colors to blend together, and I picked up that green, I'm actually going to start right on my blue. But the same, that tiptoe kind of nudging pressure. Oh, I should probably get a little white too, so it's not too dark. I'm going to go up into my green, and go back down into my blue. Super light pressure. That spot might be ugly and we might have to fix that in a minute. We'll just leave it and see what happens. Again, starting on my blue, flat foot pressure. Tiptoe to nudge that out there. Okay. A little more green, a little more blue. I'm only picking up a tiny amount of paint, you guys. I think that we talked about this before, but I really think that that is the main problem that a lot of people have with painting clouds is, you know, they pick up these big globs of paint and then try to scrub them out and end up with, you know, these super solid, weird, smeary blop parts. Not too bad. It'll look better once we get our white on there and once we bring our blue down just a little bit. Okay, let's do our white real quick. So our little bits of white. So this part is super ugly. Put a cloud top over it and now it's not as ugly. It's like magic. Woohoo! I have a lot of paint on here. I'm just going to wipe this off. You guys are so quiet today.
I have a question.
Okay, a question. Let's have a question.
Several people asked, where did you get the inspiration for this painting?
Where did I get the inspiration for this painting? I've been wanting to paint a rainbow for a really long time. Like over a year, maybe even a couple of years. And there have been a couple of paintings that I started completely with the intention of, okay, this is going to be my rainbow painting. And then it just didn't end up feeling right. Like the Loch Ness Monster painting was supposed to be a rainbow painting. There was supposed to be a rainbow in there. No, not Loch Ness. The castle ruins, the black and white one. That one was supposed to have a rainbow in it. And then I just felt like that was not necessary for that painting. And again, this week was another week where I was working on something in particular all week long, and I'm still trying to move out of the studio. So, you know, I've got that hanging over my head, and it just wasn't working out. I mean, it was okay, but I wasn't feeling it 100%, so it's something I'll revisit later. And I had no idea what to do, and I kept coming back to, you know, I want to do a rainbow, and actually I came up with this last night, just like that. And so I really don't know. Sometimes I'll be sitting there like racking my brains for an idea, and a fully formed idea will just pop into my head. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it always happens last minute, like last night. So, all right, let's fill in this bottom section with a little bit more blue. Right in here, I didn't clean off my brush. I didn't feel like there was enough green on there to really matter. So sometimes I have very specific answers for you with, you know, where I got the inspiration for something, and sometimes not. And that's because inspiration comes from all different things, you know. It can sometimes just pop into your head. It can sometimes come from multiple sources. It sometimes just kind of evolves as you start painting, and that's, you know, what happened last week, is that one just kind of evolved. Started with something completely different, and before I knew it, I was running off with the fantasy Zen tree that we did last week. Just a little bit of white, throw a couple cloud tops in there. Not too bad. One more color after this, and we are done with the sky. But I like when you guys ask where the inspiration came from. So, you know, if that's not something that I tell you in each painting, always feel free to ask. Because if I have something very specific, then I'm probably going to be pretty excited to tell you about it. But sometimes we'll just have a boring answer like that, and I apologize. All right, final color. And again, cleaned and drying off my brush. And I think I'm drying it with a dirty paper towel. I'm dirtying it up again. No, we're good. Okay. Gonna get some white and deep violet. You could use Diox, you could mix your violet, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to use some purple and some Diox, or some Diox. What am I using here? Deep violet and white. Sorry, guys. My brain is switched off today, apparently.
I have a lot of people watching from work, and they're going to get in trouble.
Uh-oh, we have people watching from work. Don't get fired, guys. And if you do, don't bring my name up. But I'd rather you just didn't get fired. So I would feel really bad about that. All right, a little bit of white. Let's nudge that up into the blue. The blue and the purple, if you get super light pressure like that, they blend pretty good. It's mostly just that blue and green that didn't blend real well. So, like I said, if you're sad that you don't have the vivid lime green, I wouldn't recommend running out and buying it for this painting. Tiny poke of white, because I have a hard transition there. I'll take it almost over to the green, but not quite into it. I know these Tuesdays are, when we come back from the season break, should we look at doing our live events on a different day? Like on a weekend? I'm open to that. You guys tell me what would work best for you. Maybe we'll have a poll. I'll do a poll somewhere. And when we come back from this season break, which, like I said, is going to be July 17th, then we can change what day and time and all that we do our live events. It's hard to scrub right here on the edge and not scrub into my previous color too much. There we go. And now Vince left, so I don't know if you guys are answering me. He'll be back momentarily. I love this deep violet. I think it's such a beautiful color. Little hints of blue in it, even though it's a very warm purple. It's got a lot of quinacridone in it, I think, but when you start lightening it with white, you get these little hints of almost, I don't know if it's ultramarine that's in it or not, but almost like these little hints of ultramarine. This color makes me very happy. You left right as I was asking them a question. Almost. One more. Take this up into the blue, and then I think we're ready to move on. Good. Okay.
No, not a weekend.
Not a weekend? Okay.
Yes, because I work every Tuesday. Yes, weekend. Weekdays.
We're pretty split right now. Well, if I can ever get to the point where I manage my time well enough that I can do 2 paintings a week, maybe we can do one on Tuesday and one on weekend, and then you'll both be happy. All right, so there is our background. It is done. Yay! And I'm not going to wait for it to dry because the next color we do is just going to be black. So I don't feel like I need to wait for it to dry. So I would like to hear if anybody's painting along and how your background's turning out if you are. In the meantime, I'm going to get me some black paint. And we're really only going to use black paint from here on out. We'll use a little bit of white paint at the end, but we're done with all the fancy colors for now. You could get, you know, crazy and add all kinds of colors into the flowers that we're going to do. I kind of felt like it would clash or kind of get lost in the background, so I didn't add colors to my flowers, but you certainly could. All right, I'm going to use my 5/8 inch angle brush. You could use a 1/2 inch, whatever you prefer. I'm going to wet it in my jar and wipe a bit off on the edge. You know what? I don't want to use heavy body paint for this one. Sorry guys, give me a second. Where I'm doing detail work, the heavy body is a little bit more difficult to do detail work with, especially on a gessoed surface. So I end up having to mix a lot more water with it, and I'm just not as happy with it when I try and use the heavy body for detail work. So I just kind of sucked it all back up into the tube. And I'm going to use basics. So see, those of you who ask, you know, if which one is better, I think it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And, you know, if I specifically don't tell you I'm using this one because of this, then it really doesn't matter. But right now, I feel like it matters. So I'm going to use Basics Black because it's a little bit thinner, a little easier to work with. But see, I buy it in the big tubs because I go through a lot of paint. Even started buying some of the heavy bodies in these big, huge tubs. Okay, that lid just doesn't live on there for right now. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting on my branch. And you can put the branch on either side. And in fact, if you decided that you wanted to turn your canvas portrait and have one of these colors at the top, anything like that, you're free to do that. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to start my branch over here, just below the center line. So right about where my purple starts. And we're going to have it kind of come out and down just a little bit so that my birds can sit over here. So last couple times we've talked a little bit about the rule of thirds. So if I draw a line here and a line here, and I have 3 sections that are of equal width. I can also draw a line here and here, so I have 3 sections of equal width. Wherever those lines meet, I'll have like kind of a crossing point. Those are the points of interest. So that's kind of where you want to focus putting your subject. So my birds will sit. The space between them will be right about here where these 1/3 lines intersect each other. I hope that's not confusing. I hope you're not all sitting there going, what? What is that? The rule of thirds is, you know, it's a rule. Rules are made to be broken, but it's always good to know them and kind of consider them and then go from there. Doesn't mean you have to stick with that. But it's something I like to think about first and decide, yes, I'm going to stick with that rule, or For this one, I don't feel like that rule applies, so I'm not going to do that, and that's okay. Okay, I'm going to start over here. Remember, I'm sure that most of you know this by now, but some of you may not. With an angle brush, you want to drag it so that your long point always drags. So if I'm coming from here and moving that way, my angle, the long point is facing that way, not that way. See? Because otherwise, it's going to crush into it. I'm going to lose control of my line. So we'll just kind of start over here, bring it down a bit, lighten my pressure so I get a nice thin line there. Let's go back in and just kind of very loosely, work really loosely. It's a branch. Don't make it look like, you know, an iron rod, very straight, hard edges. Let it be kind of wild and wobbly. If you work in shorter brush strokes like that and let your brush wiggle as you go, then you'll get a little bit more of a natural look. In fact, I want an elbow there. You guys know how I like elbows in my branches. And let's come back from this way. So I flipped my brush around so my long point is dragging still. We'll start there. Lighten my pressure, let my hand wobble. Slowly put heavier pressure on it so my branch slowly gets wider until we're there. Make sure all my little spots are filled in. And that is basically my branch. You can give yourself an idea of where you want some other little detail branches, but for now, let's not get too crazy and put in a lot of detail into these branches, okay? I know I want one there, so I want to make sure that my birds leave room for that, and I know I want another one kind of right about here. And other than that, my birds are more important. So any other little branches, they will wait until I'm done with my birds. Okay. Let's see, how dry is that? Not too bad. I don't think I want to use that chalk though, because you'll be able to see it.
Question?
Yeah, we have a question?
Another one asks, are you rolling your brush any?
Was I rolling my brush when I was doing my branch here? I wasn't so much rolling it because I was using an angle brush. The round brush is really what you want to roll, and that's how you get that twisty look. But while I wasn't rolling it, because that would kind of, you know, do something weird with the brush like that, I was kind of holding it farther back and kind of wiggling it just a little bit, you know, so I would start kind of going this way, and maybe I would let my finger twist so the brush is not flat anymore, perpendicular to the line I'm drawing. It kind of angles, but I still drag it that way, and then I roll it back the other way. So it's more just like a slight twist, just like a wobble, but it's not a full roll. Excuse me. Let's zoom in here. I'm going to put you right here so I don't make you sick while I move my camera around. And Vince, if we have any other questions while I'm adjusting my camera. No other questions? All right. I think that, let me make sure that's going to be tall enough. It'll come out just a little bit more. Okay. Well, that was last week's painting. So here I've got you zoomed in, and I'm going to put my birds here. We will twist this the other way. Okay, now birds are actually pretty simple things to draw, and they're simple for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're really made up of three shapes, okay? A big oval or a circle for the body, a small oval or a circle for the head, and a pointy part for the tail. And then I guess a pointy part for the beak. And that's really it. So in that way, birds are very simple to draw. In the other way that they're very simple, you can make birds look like whatever you want. You can go super realistic with them. You can make them really funky and, you know, whimsical. You can make them silly and goofy. You know, I've seen birds done where it's just like a circle with some eyes in the front. So get creative with your birds. They can look like whatever you want. Please don't freak out and feel like, you know, oh, I can't do birds. Because I hear that one a lot too. In an effort to try and make it so that both you can see what I'm doing and I'm not permanently damaging my canvas with chalk that won't come off, I'm going to use this white chalk and just really cross my fingers that you can see it. The first thing I want to do is say where the bird's belly is, because if I don't know where the bird's belly is, I don't know where anything else on the bird is. And I want to say that we can see the legs just a little bit. But if you're not comfortable with that, set it down all the way on the branch. I'm going to put my bird, it's really not very high. You can see that it's about 1/4 of an inch or so above the branch. And I'm just going to kind of draw an oval. Can you see that okay? So it starts there and it ends there. It's about that wide. We've got a little tail that comes straight off of the back. And it'll just kind of poke out that way, right about to there. And off of the belly. Whoa, my black paint was not dry there. It's a good thing we're gonna do some black paint there. And let's do the head. Now this is important with the head of the bird. Let me see if I can zoom you in just a little bit for this part. Do not make your bird a weird snowman, okay? If you're looking at the bird from the side, chances are, you know, they kind of sit down like that, and then their feathers and everything cover a lot of their body, so it kind of looks like their head is tucked down inside of their body. Here's the top of the body. If you put the circle for the head up here, he's gonna be crazy. So we're gonna overlap his body with his head. You see that? More than half of his head is down inside of his body. It's not sitting up on top of it. So that's what it's going to be like when you're looking at it from the side. I swoop that down so it's straight there. Don't give him like this hard in the back of his neck. And you can't see that, but I just gave myself a little indication of where the beak is going to be. All right, we're going to do another bird, and it's going to be shaped just a little bit different, okay? So this bird, again, I'm going to say he sits just a little bit above the branch. It's about 1/4 of an inch or so. And we'll do the oval for the body. I think I want to kind of widen it out at the top, almost like a heart shape, because I'm going to say this bird is facing away from us. We're looking at the bird's back, so it might be a little wider where we can see the shoulders as compared to this bird. So let's straighten him out just a little bit. Am I losing everybody, Vince? Are they completely confused?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's roughly the shape. It's just kind of an egg shape. It's a little wider at the top than at the bottom, but not much. Now the head on this bird, I can put just a bit higher, because you would see kind of, it's not really shoulders, but they're kind of in the same place as shoulders. It's where the wings kind of sit and they bend, so it might look a little wider. So I did put the head up higher, and I'm going to swoop it down and make sure I keep that shoulder shape. Maybe over here it's not quite as strong. And the tail. Okay, we have a question now.
Marty asked, would you say the head should most of the time be in line with the tail?
Would you say that the head should most of the time be in line with the tail? That is a really good question, but birds are super, like, limber, I guess. Like, they can move in really strange ways. And so if a bird is sitting, you know, on a branch in this direction, like this bird, so his head is in line with his tail, but if there's a sound over here, he might turn his head to look, and then his head might kind of look like it's on backwards because of the way that they're able to move. And in that way, the tail and the head would be pointing in the exact same direction. So get online and really look at birds, there's a lot of really great images of birds out there that will kind of give you both realistic and artistic images of birds that will give you an idea of the different ways that they can sit. Okay, I'm going to my number 10 round brush, and I know you guys don't have this yet. Like I said, I don't know when they're coming in. I am guessing it's coming pretty darn quick here. You will have these before we come back from season break for season 7. So be on the lookout. Like I said, sign up for my mailing list. I will send out a note as soon as they're in. I just got a little extra water, loading it up with black paint. In the meantime, if you don't have this, I'm just using it to fill in my birds. Use whatever you're comfortable with. This is a nice large brush, and I felt pretty comfortable with filling in my birds with it. So that's why I'm using it. Now you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to bring the top of the head up and smooth it into the back. See what I did not do there? And I see this a lot, and it's always when somebody says, my bird looks weird, is they'll do the head like that, and you know, the body like that, and they'll leave this hard point behind. So they've got like almost a snowman looking bird. Don't make a snowman looking bird. Blend his neck down. Sorry, Vince, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pamela asked, is the number 10 a new brush?
Yes, the number 10 is a new brush, and
Is it available?
we should be getting it very soon. In the front here, where the beak is going to be, I am going to kind of smooth it just a little bit. See how it does dip in just a little bit right there, but it's not a hard angle. Don't put a hard angle on your bird's head. He's going to be unhappy about that, I promise. If you have a really hard time drawing birds, then you're free to, you know, trace my image to get your bird. We have a little bit of a kind of a fat part there on his chest. I like fat birds. I also always hear people say, oh, my bird is so fat. Fat birds are cute birds, so please make your birds fat. Okay, I'm going to come from the tail. Let the tip of the brush kind of help make the point of the tail. And we'll smooth it in. See, the gesso kind of makes it, because I don't sand it, the gesso makes detail work a little bit more challenging, but that's okay. It's worth it to get my background to look the way I want it to. Oh, let's put a couple little bits where some feathers are poking out. Because our bird might not be completely solid. He might have his feathers ruffled just a little bit. I know he looks so weird without a nose, a beak, whatever it's called. Any more questions, Vince?
Not really.
No more questions?
A lot of people are just watching. Not a lot are painting along.
Not a lot of people painting along
Well,
today?
people that are painting along are not saying so
Because they're painting and not chatting. Did you guys see what I accidentally did here? Got black paint. Oh, you can't really see it. Stuck my hand in black paint and got it all over my canvas. Let's take care of that real quick, because I know that happens to you guys sometimes. And sometimes we freak out when that happens. So I have a clean, damp brush, my little spot of black paint here, and just kind of nudge up to it. Don't scrub real hard. Just nudge up to it. And if it just absolutely won't come out, ta-da, then when we do our flowers in a few minutes, just put a flower over top of it. That one I don't think I'm going to mess with too much because I feel like that one's just going to get worse. So I'll just put a flower over that one. Okay. Let's give our bird a beak because then he'll get some personality. So I just like a little beak on these little chickadee ones, but you can do it however you want. I'm going to smooth it up into his face on the top and also on the bottom. There we go. We'll worry about the legs later. Let's fill in our other bird. Okay. Smooth out the top of the head, and again right there, kind of where the chin is. See how it's just a very smooth curve. It's not a hard angle there. Same thing over here. But I think the shoulder probably comes out just a little bit farther because we're looking at his back, but he's kind of turned to look at this one here. Let's get our tail in there. Can you see? Yeah. It's so quiet. No questions? Oh, you do have a question. Okay.
Pamela was asking about the brushes. She was interested in the brush that you're going to be coming out with.
Mm-hmm.
She said, will there be more? Should she wait? She already has the clouds and the detail brushes, but she wants to know if there will be more brushes that you'll be releasing with that.
Yeah, there will be 5 new brushes as soon as they're in. And they should be in, like I said, very, very soon. I wouldn't be surprised if they're here this week. But again, I don't know for sure. But yeah, there will be 5 brushes. There'll be 2 rounds of this size, a size 8 and a size 10. I will have 2 new filberts and 2 new brights, both 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. So like the angle brushes, and a fan brush. Wait, that's 2, 4, 6, that's 8, 2, 4, 6, 7 new brushes. I don't know math, I guess. And if I have a what?
Ellen asked if you have a stencil for the birds.
Do I have a tracing element for the birds? I do not. Because I feel like they're really simple. You know, I didn't feel like, I thought that it would take me a ton more time to trace these on here than it would to just draw them. So I did not do a tracing element for these. Like I said, they're really simple. There are 2 ovals. I'm going to use my smaller brush for that beak. For some reason, it's at a strange angle that I'm having a hard time getting to. Let me clean that line up a little. But like I said, you can always like print out my picture if you insist and trace the birds. I think they're pretty easy, but maybe that's just me. Okay, there. Fixed up his ugly little beak. I'm going to go to my number 2 round, just a teeny tiny little round. And this is what we're going to do the legs with, and I'm going to fix up his beak with this one. Not too bad. Okay. Let's do some legs. Now, bird legs can be not hard, but you really should kind of look at birds to see what they look like before you start sticking legs on them, because you might, you know, come in here and just say, okay, straight down, but birds' legs they don't come straight down. They have two joints, so they come out of the body and they actually bend backwards, and then they bend forward. So it's more like, when it comes out of the bird's body, it's more like that kind of a shape, and then it's got the foot, you know, the body's like up here. So that's kind of what a bird's leg is shaped like. However, we're not going to see all that because our bird is kind of relaxing down onto his legs. So we're only going to see the bottom portion of his legs. The bottom portion of his legs is right here, right? Mr. Moon says hi. So that's what we're going to see. And it's going to kind of come forward. See how I angled that forward? And we got another one over here. Also moving forward. Now let's just come from right here, and I'm just going to kind of put a bump there. That's his toe. We don't have to get real specific with it. I just put a bump there in front, and it says that he's got his little toes wrapped around the tree branch. This one, I don't know if this one has feet that we can see. I don't feel like... let's do it. If I don't like it, I can take it off. Let's put a leg just kind of right there, and we'll give him a little toe. That's not bad, actually. I think that's okay. What do you guys think? Do his legs look dumb, or does he look okay? Zoom you out a little. He's kind of a pudgy bird, isn't he? I like pudgy birds. Let's get you up a little bit. We're really gonna add some leaves to our tree, a couple more stems, some little flowers, and then we're about done. So I told you this is really quite a simple painting, so we're not gonna spend hours and hours on it today. Okay, I'm gonna stick with my number 2 for now, my number 2 round. And let's kind of come off of this branch. No, I'm going to leave that branch the way it is for now. Let's take another little stem up from here. What did you say, Vince? I'm sorry.
I said everybody thinks they look good.
Oh, good. Everybody thinks bird legs look good. Good, good. I'm going to make like a little stem here that we're going to put some leaves on. I'm using my number 2 round. It's a very small brush, but as always, the more pressure you put on it, the fatter the line will get. So just be aware of that. And maybe we'll put some flowers over here. So I'm just reminding myself that I want flowers right there. Kind of looking at the one that you've already seen to get ideas for where to put stuff. I think I'm going to put another little branch right here, heavy pressure there, so that I get a wider line. Kind of twisting my brush a little to get kind of that jagged branch-like look. And we'll do a little stem here that'll have some leaves on it.
Question.
We have a question.
Lisa asked, if you get a new filbert, will you retire the beloved abused one?
If I get a new filbert, will I retire my loved abused one? Never. In fact, he's right here. We're going to use him in just a minute. No, the filberts that I'm getting in, they're larger ones. So like the angle brush, how I have the 1/4 of an inch, and then the larger ones, they're in line with those sizes. I'm going to go back to my number 10 round. Use whatever you have. If all you have is like my number 6 round, that's fine too. You might just end up with smaller leaves, or you can kind of do them a couple of ways, or a couple of times to get them larger. Let me zoom you in here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. for the leaves. Actually, you'll be able to see better right here. Olaf is a loud itcher. So I don't know if you can hear that thump, thump, thump. That's him itching his face. Okay, so for the leaves, I've got my brush rolled to a nice point, and this is going to be hard painting around a camera. I'm going to take that point and put it right at the end of my stem, put a little pressure, pull it back, and release, and that one goes off the canvas, so it's hard to see anyway, but let's do another one right here. So right on my stem, kind of push and release. Do twist your brush just a tiny bit right at the end, right as you start to release the pressure. Just roll your brush a tiny bit like that. Did you see that? Just like that. Let me show you why. If you don't, and this is fine. So we start, this is with no twisting. We put pressure, we pull it back, and we release. We get kind of an open-ended, soft leaf there. And if that's what you want, that's okay. If you want it to be more pointed, what you want to do is start, put the pressure, pull it back, slightly turn it as you release it. And whenever I do it slow, it never works out. So kind of like that. It's just a little bit more closed looking. And it, of course, it works different on my paper plate than it does on my canvas. So. And that one goes off, and that one goes off. Or you can do your leaves exactly however you want to do them. There's really not a right and wrong way. Let's do some more right here. I'm going to extend this line just a bit. I really like it when elements go off the canvas. It's much more interesting than trying to squish everything in. If I tried to make sure that those leaves didn't go off the canvas, then I would just have like unnaturally teeny tiny leaves there, and that would just look weird. But I know that sometimes when we're newer to painting, the idea that you're gonna make something go off the edge of the canvas, it feels awkward to you. You think, oh, it's going to look like I didn't plan, or it's going to look like I didn't leave myself room. It's not going to look like that at all. Let elements go off the canvas. It's going to be much more interesting, much more pleasing, much more natural looking. Let's do one more little set of leaves, and then we can start doing some flowers. I think the flowers are the fun part anyway. Okay, hopefully I didn't make you sick. Let's see, where do I want to put these ones? We'll put them right here. Okay, so right on the canvas, kind of push, pull it back, twist it slightly as I bring it up to get a sharper point. How's everybody doing with that leaf technique? Does anybody, we've done it in the past, and I know that people have had a hard time with it. Does anybody have any questions about it or emotional outbursts?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's hear it. Especially the emotional outburst.
Kelly said your leaves look pretty, hers look like blobs.
Kelly said my leaves look pretty and hers look like blobs. Let's see, I'm going to put a leaf over this ugly little bloppy bit there. Little stem. So if your leaves look like blobs, you just need to do a little bit more practicing. I haven't always done great leaves, and sometimes I still don't. So, don't worry about that.
Eileen said she's going to do a whole canvas of practice leaves.
Eileen's going to do a whole canvas of practice leaves. Eileen is awesome. That's exactly the attitude that we should all have whenever there's something that we have a hard time with. All right, let's do some flowers. I need some more white paint. But like I said, you can do your flowers in any colors you like. I felt like white. That was just what I wanted to see. You can even do them in black and just have them be silhouettes like everything else. Whatever you prefer. I'm going to go to my number 8 filbert, and it's my ugly, sad one. Can you see like how the bristles are all just everywhere? It's because I scrub with this brush. I love it. All right, I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick up a good amount of white. Almost blobbed. Can you see that? I have quite a bit of paint on here. And like last week, 2 weeks ago when we did the poppies in the field, and I said, don't come in and draw very specific flowers, like one petal, one petal, one petal. Be kind of random. I want you to come in. I don't have stems here for these just yet. I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, that's a flower. Maybe that's the full flower. And it comes out like that. Or that's another flower entirely. Right here we've got another flower. Make them touch the other ones. Okay, so those are flowers. I'm going to even put one right there. I know they don't look like flowers right now. That's a flower. A flower, a flower. Let's make that one and that one touch. Oh, you can't see those. Let's just get you up there just a little bit. Little tiny bit more. That's as far as we're going to go right now, apparently. And we'll do a couple here. Flower. Flower. So these are very similar to the flowers that we did in the bluebird that we did earlier this spring. Remember the bluebird with the red flowers, and we did it in both watercolor and acrylic. This is the exact same flower, except we're just doing white. And in that one, I think I did 2 or 3 colors. I think that's good. I'm going to add flowers in a couple other places, but I'm going to finish these ones first and then zoom it out while I do the last couple. And then I think we're about done. Okay, I'm going to go back to my number 2 round, and I'm going to get some black paint. Now we can work on our stems. So I'm going to take this stem and just end it at a flower. I'm not going to be real specific. Maybe I'll come from there and make another little. See, just very loose, very general. And maybe we'll have another one that comes up to there. Let's do like a little bud. I kind of like these little buds. So I'm going to come off of here, pull that stem out, and then push my brush flat. Now I have like a little bud. I think those are fun. I might even do another one. I like that. And same thing over here. My flowers are going to come off of this little twiggy bit here. I kind of miss having the ability to do my little trademarks with my ridiculous words. Just whenever I say something silly like twiggy bits, just automatically picture the trademark symbol, okay? I actually asked my attorney about that. I asked her, you know, I'm just being funny when I say that, but what if it just so happens that somebody does have that word trademarked? Would they sue me? She said she didn't think so. So let's add another little bud there. Oh, a question. Okay.
Vicky has asked a few times if you have any advice on making the flowers and the leaves more realistic.
If I have any advice on making the flowers and leaves more realistic, I don't, because yeah, practice really is going to be it. I don't focus on realism. It's not what I want. It's not what I want to do. Okay, all I'm doing here, I'll come back, but all I'm doing here is just taking the tip of my brush and just kind of tapping some little dots, saying that's the center of a flower. That's how we're making that, so it's not just like a weird white blob. Now it looks like it's got a center to it. But, you know, everybody's goals are different, and my goals have never been realism. So it's not something I put a lot of energy into. I'm much more interested in kind of working a little bit more. I want to express something a little bit more, you know, like whether it's a feeling or whatever. But as far as like rendering something perfectly realistic, it's not on my to-do list. So I don't put a lot of energy into it. But whatever you put energy into, you're going to be able to do. So if painting realistic flowers is what you want, practice, lots and lots of practice. And, you know, look at a lot of flowers and, you know, study them and study realism techniques, and you will get it. That's really the best advice I can give you. Let's do just a couple more little buds. I really like these little kind of whimsical flowers here. They're really fun for me. I like them. Like even when I look at art, I mean, super realistic stuff, it's impressive. It definitely takes, you know, an amount of skill that I don't have because I haven't, you know, tried to develop that. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of really realistic art that is just not, it's not expressive like at all. I think, yeah, it looks like a photo, you know, but, and there's a lot of artists who do kind of straddle that line between, you know, making things look super realistic, but also being very expressive. And, you know, being expressive is way more valuable to me as even just a viewer of art than realism is. But that's just me, and everybody is completely different. You know, everybody's got different things that they like and different goals. I'm just going to add a few more little flowers. Maybe right here. Oh, we'll make that flower kind of overlap our bird here. Maybe that was a dumb idea. We'll see. If it's a dumb idea, we can fix it. For sure, I'll make it overlap my branch. And then we know for a fact that it exists in the same scene as the branch. All right. That might be all the flowers I want to do. I know I had flowers in his mouth in the demo one that I showed you, but I wasn't really happy with that. And I don't feel like there's really much room for it here. So I'm not going to do it. But if you wanted to, I really just did the exact same thing, just kind of in his mouth. So we'll take the little stem out here. There we go. Actually, I kind of don't mind those being right on him. Just my little dots in the middle. Man, I took way too much black paint, didn't I? When I'm always telling you about paint management, take less paint than you think you're going to need. And then I don't do it. I've always kind of been a do as I say, not as I do teacher. So I guess with that too. Manage your paint well, but I'm not going to. Clean your brushes well. But my poor brushes are always in need of a good deep cleaning and a rubbing alcohol soak. All right. Let's zoom you out. I'm going to click you over to here so I don't make you completely sick. Vince, do we have any more questions? We're wrapping it up. Do I have a favorite flower to paint? Don't actually paint a ton of flowers, and when I do, like I said, I like really stylized flowers. You know, I like ones that aren't realistic. Like, I love painting these flowers. I think they're really fun and they're simple, but I think that they're effective. And, you know, we've actually painted flowers like this quite a bit. So like I said, we painted them in the Bluebird video. We also painted them in the poppies that we did a couple weeks ago in the grass. It was the exact same flowers, just without the stems. So it's really versatile too. But yeah, I don't paint a ton of flowers, and especially realistic ones. They just, I don't know. It's not something that I really care about. But anyway, there's our little bluebirds on our rainbow sky. And I hope that you guys enjoyed painting this one with me. I had a really good time with it. And I'm happy with how it turned out. The one that I shared and at the beginning of this video, it's not my favorite one. So I'll probably replace the images with this one because I like the way this one turned out a lot better. I like the transition and the colors of the sky a lot better on this one. I did put a little more emphasis into the cloud tops showing, and so I like that a lot better in this one. And I think my flowers look a lot better in this one than in the previous one. So yeah, I'm happy with it. And I hope that you guys all had a great time too. So
Recap the season return.
yeah, so like I said, this is we're going to call it season finale. I'm going to do this twice a year. So the next one will be around the holiday season. So when I come back, I'll be back for, you know, several months, and then I'll take a break around the holidays.
No cliffhangers.
No cliffhangers, Vince says. No, we won't leave you with cliffhangers. But yeah, I will be back on July 17th. In the meantime, I don't have it just yet. I'm going to work on that as soon as we're done here. I'm going to make season playlists. So I'll have playlists with all of the videos from each season, 1 through 6. And this is the end of season 6. And then I'll make another playlist next month when we come back for July for season 7. Again, make sure that you sign up for my mailing list and follow me on Instagram, all that fun stuff. I will be writing some blog posts, which I'm super excited about because I keep saying I want to write blog posts and then I just don't ever have time for it. So we're going to blog our guts out this month. And my Patreon and YouTube sponsors, remember, I will still see you on our regular schedule. That won't change. So if you don't want to wait until July 17th to get some demos and ask some questions, you can join us over there for the next few weeks and we will have a great time. So, all right, you guys, I am going to take off and I will see you next month. I'm so excited. I'm going to get so much done. So, all right, everyone, you have a wonderful week and I'm excited to see your version of this painting. So thank you as always for painting with me. They want to see Mr. Moon now. I just said thanks for painting with me. All right, we'll get Mr. Moon and then we'll be done. We are done a little bit early, aren't we?
The butcher's wife said she'd like for us to stretch it out another half hour.
Stretch it out another half hour. All right, maybe we can do that. Here comes Mr. Moon. Hi, Mr. Moon. Oh, buddy. Hi. Look. People never get to see you that close up. Can you say hi? No? He says, no, I don't like being on the camera. So Mr. Moon actually, as many of you know, oh, you're done. Okay, bye-bye. Mr. Moon was a rescue. So we actually rescued him from kitty death row. And he's amazing. I can't imagine putting him down. He's very noisy though. But a good friend of ours actually works for the rescue that we got him from. And yesterday, I wish I had it here that I could show you. She posted a picture on Facebook of him when he very first got to the rescue. And he was so skinny and he was so dirty. His hair was so dirty and his eyes were just like glazed over and he was barely opening them. And he hadn't been neutered yet, so his head was just gigantic. With his little skinny body and his gigantic head. And so he kind of had like a pug nose almost, but he was also very sick. And oh, it was just the saddest picture ever. And I remember that's the very first picture I had ever seen of him. And then I saw that again yesterday and I was like, that is not the same cat. I mean, I can tell it's him, but you guys would be shocked if you saw that picture. It was really sad, but yeah, so he's happy now, and that's what matters. And he's noisy, but we're happy. He cuddles with me in the morning, and I love that. Okay, I don't think I can stretch it out for 30 minutes, but I'm super excited for this next 4 weeks, and I hope you guys are too. Promise I'm not dropping off the face of the earth. We will have lots of fun over the next 4 weeks. And we will be back on July 17th with a new video. So I will see you then. So bye, everybody.